pleased to introduce the next moderator, Raul Aguilar, the Deputy Assistant Director of the Transnational Organized Crime Division of Homeland Security Investigations. He has oversight over HSI's portfolio in illicit finance and proceeds of crime unit, bulk cash smuggling center, contraband smuggling, worksite enforcement, and identity benefit fraud. He's joined today by Amy Drumm, Senior Vice President of the Michigan Retailers Association, Rob Carr, the President and CEO of the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, Lauren Kors, Senior Director of AML of Americas for the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists, Jonathan Thompson, Executive Director and CEO of the National Sheriff's Association, Frank Pattercity, Director of Corporate Security and Investigations and Organized Retail Crime at Kroger, Jonathan Willis, Special Agent for HSI, and Alex Baloga, the CEO of Pennsylvania Food Merchants Association.
Last but not least, go blue. Amy, Michigan.
Thank you, go blue. Amy Drumm, I'm the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for Michigan Retailers Association. We represent both large and small retailers, and we are really member-driven in what topics we follow and what issues we pursue. And ORC has been a major issue for our members, large and small, for a number of years. You've heard it from the others on the panel. And so we had 3 asks that came from members that we turned into what we called a 3-pronged approach in Michigan that we were successful in getting passed in a purple state this year. And that was 3 pieces. The first was the Inform Act. We passed our state version of that. We also got stronger penalties for ORC. We added our existing ORC Act into our RICO statute. So you now have up to a 20-year felony on top of our 5-year felony for ORC specifically. And you have the added benefit of forfeiture. And the forfeiture feeds into the third piece, which was working with our Attorney General to secure $3.5 million as an initial investment for them to set up an ORC unit that will specifically prosecute crimes across jurisdictions, because we saw that we had issues moving from one city to another as these groups move all around the state and into other states as well. And so that was a piece to get them to focus on these issues. They didn't have the funding or resources to do that without it. And it will hopefully then self-fund going forward using the forfeiture piece. So it also, I should add, it includes a task force as well that's not as publicly acknowledged, but will be behind the scenes for our loss prevention folks at the retail stores, as well as state, local, and federal law enforcement to work together and partnering on what they're seeing. Sharing information, as we've talked about, is a key piece of that. And so we're happy to have been able to do that in a purple state. We used a lot of different messaging to get that accomplished, and we think it will really be important going forward to focus on the education and implementation of that. So we're not done yet, but.
How big of a problem is it? Can you give us the ORC in your state, and then Frank, from a perspective of where you sit, sir? We'll go with Amy first. How bad of a problem is ORC in your state now?
So Michigan is a border state, right? We border Canada. People may forget that at times because we have water, but there are major ports going back and forth. And so we certainly see the movement of goods that is a major concern. We have other concerns too. I mean, sitting on our Organized Retail Crime Advisory Board that's run by our state police agency, we hear all the various fraud scams and schemes that are going on. They're constantly moving. It's gift cards, it's stolen items, it's concerns about employee safety, it's the violence aspect. People are getting more and more violent. We saw a lot of concerns coming out of COVID with people getting more desperate and they weren't able to work. They needed quick cash. They were willing to go serve as a booster for a fencing operation because it was easy. They weren't getting stopped. You had your face hidden with a mask. I think there were a dozen reasons why we made it easier during COVID to move goods and see a rise in ORC. So we continue to see that problem. It really is about the partnerships, though, and sharing information. The more that we've shared, the more we've learned, and we are excited about those going forward. And I was remiss in not noting earlier that we really have formed strong partnerships. It was because of our work with USAIT and our other trade associations, our national partners like NRF and RELA, that we were able to get the pieces done that we did. So it's a joint effort. It takes a lot of sharing of information and working together, and it's those coalition building events like today that are really getting us some of the results we're looking for.
Thank you. Frank?